The Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation by Mo Xiang Tong Xiu. An unofficial reading by Emm Wilde. Book 2. Chapter 8. The Stalk of Grass. Part 5. Each new clap of thunder was louder than the last. Zhao Jingchen was stunned by all the noise. What did you say? You can see? Qing was scared, but this couldn't remain a secret any longer. She apologized over and over. Daozhang, I wasn't purposefully trying to deceive you. I was scared that once you knew that I wasn't blind, you wouldn't let me stay with you any longer. I was afraid that you'd chase me away. Please don't be mad at me right now. Let's run away, together. He'll be back as soon as he's done getting groceries. Abruptly, she shut her mouth. The bandage wrapped around Zhao Jingchen's eyes was usually snow white, but now twin blots of blood were growing on it. The blood spread and spread until it gradually soaked through the fabric and rolled from his empty sockets. Qing screamed, Jiaozhang, you're bleeding! It was as if Zhao Jingchen had only just noticed. He let out a soft ah and touched his face, his hands coming away soaked in blood. Qing helped him wipe his face, her hands shuddering as she did, but the more she wiped, the more blood was there. Zhao Jingchen raised his hand. I'm fine. I'm fine. In the beginning, his wounded eyes would bleed when he overthought things or grew overly emotional, but the wounds hadn't opened up in a long time. Wei Wuxian had thought they'd healed by now, but here he was, having a relapse and bleeding once again. But if it really is Zhou Yang, why would it be like this? Zhao Jingchen mumbled. Why did he not kill me at the very start? Why did he stay by my side for so many years? How could this be Zhou Yang? Of course he wanted to kill you at the start, Qing replied. I saw those eyes in him. They were mean and scary, but he was wounded and couldn't move. He needed someone to take care of him. I didn't know who he was, but if I'd known that he was some homicidal maniac, I would have stabbed him to death with my bamboo pole while he was lying there in the grass. Daozhang, let's run away, Kay? Wei Wuxian, however, sighed inwardly. That's no longer possible. If you hadn't told him, he'd have continued to live together with Zhou Yang. But you did tell him, and he'll never run off just like that. He feels compelled to question Zhou Yang face to face. It's unavoidable. Sure enough, once Zhao Jingchen had calmed himself with an effort, he said, Qing, you go on. His voice was slightly raspy. Qing replied, a little scared, Go? Daozhang, let's leave together. Zhao Jingchen shook his head. I cannot leave. I have to find out what he is thinking. He must have a goal in mind, and it is more likely in pursuit of that goal that he has stayed by my side all these years. If I leave, if he is left alone here, he will slaughter the people of Yi City. That is who Zhou Yang has always been. This time, Qing's tears were no longer pretend. She tossed the bamboo pole aside and clung to Zhao Jingchen's leg. Daozhang, how do I leave you on my own? I gotta go with you. If you're not leaving, then I won't go either. Let him just kill both of us. I would have died alone and wretched out there by myself anyways. If you don't want things to end like that for me, then we have to run away together. Unfortunately, with the secret of her not being blind exposed, this trick of playing pitiful was no longer effective. Zhao Jingchen soothed her. Qing, you can see, and you are smart. I believe you can live your life very well. You do not understand how terrifying this Zhou Yang is. You cannot stay, and you must never go near him again. Wei Wuxian heard Qing's internal screaming. I know how terrifying he is. But she simply couldn't tell him the entire truth. Suddenly, there came a sound of spry footfalls. Zhou Yang was back. Zhao Jingchen snapped his head up. As keen and alert as if he were on a night hunt, he pulled Qing close to whisper to her, When he comes in, I will handle him. You take that chance and run away. Be good. Frightened to tears, Qing nodded confusedly. Zhou Yang kicked at the door a couple of times. What are you guys doing? I'm back already, but you guys are still not gone? If you haven't left yet, undo the latch and let me inside. I'm exhausted. His words and tone were exactly those of a good boy next door, a sprightly little martial brother. No one could ever have guessed that an inhuman monster stood outside that door. A crazed fiend, a demon wearing a handsome human skin, walking and talking like a man. The door wasn't locked, but it was barred from the inside. If they didn't open the door soon, Zhu Yang would surely become suspicious, and when he entered, he would be on guard. Ah Ching wiped her face and yelled, "Exhausted, my ass! It's how far to go and get groceries, and you're already tired? Your big sis got caught up changing in a couple of outfits. What's it to you?" Zhu Yang's reply was full of scorn. "And how many sets of clothes do you own? They're all the same, no matter what you change into. Open up." Even though Ah Ching's legs shook uncontrollably, she still sounded vigorous and confident. "Bah, well, I won't open it for you. Kick the door open yourself if you're so amazing." Zhu Yang laughed aloud. "You're the one who said it. Diao Zhang, don't blame me if you've got to repair the door later." True to his word, he kicked the wooden door open with a single punt. He crossed the tall threshold and entered, one hand holding the basket full of vegetables, the other a vibrant red apple. He had just taken a crisp bite out of it when he looked down and saw Shuanghua's blade burrowing into his belly. The grocery basket fell to the ground. The green vegetables, the radish, the apple, and the buns all rolled across the floor. Zhao Jingchen barked in a low voice, "Ah Ching, run!" Ah Ching bolted, charging out the front door. She ran madly for a bit, then changed course and turned back, fervently circling back to the mortuary. She crawled to the hidden spot that she was most familiar with, where she had often went to eavesdrop. This time, she even poked her head out a bit to peer into the house. Zhao Jingchen asked coldly, "Did this amuse you?" Zhu Yang took another bite of the apple still in his hand and chewed it unhurriedly before swallowing. "It did. Why wouldn't it?" He had returned to his usual normal voice. "What exactly were you planning, staying here with me all these years?" Zhao Jingchen questioned. "Who knows?" Zhu Yang said. "Maybe I was just bored." Zhao Jingchen withdrew Shuanghua, about to strike again. "Zhao Jingchen Jiaozang. That story I never finished," Zhu Yang continued. "You probably don't want to hear the rest of it anymore, right?" "No." But despite this harsh rejection, Zhao Jingchen still tilted his head slightly, his sword pausing. "Well, I'm gonna tell you anyway," Zhu Yang said. "If you still think I'm at fault once I'm done, you can do whatever you want." He casually rubbed the wound on his belly, putting pressure on it to stop himself from bleeding out. When the child saw the man had cudgeled him into delivering that message, he felt both aggravated and happy. He flung himself at him, overflowing with tears, and told him, "The message was delivered, but the dessert is gone, and I got beaten too. Can you give me another plate?" But the man's face was bruised too. The burly man must have found and beaten him as well. When he saw this dirty little kid clinging to his leg, he was sorely irritated and kicked him away. He mounted an ox cart, telling the driver to go now. The child crawled up off the ground and chased the cart. He wanted so badly to eat that plate of sweet desserts. When he finally caught up, he waved in front of the cart, wanting them to stop. The man was annoyed by all the crying, so he snatched the whip from the driver's hands and lashed the boy's head, whipping him to the ground. Zhu Yang then emphasized each word. And then, one by one, the cart's wheels rolled over each finger on that kid's hand. Not caring whether or not Zhao Jingchen could see it, he raised his own left hand. 7 years old. The bones of his left hand were completely shattered, and one finger was crushed to mush on the spot. That man was Chengping's father. "Zhao Jingchen Jiaozhen, how righteous and stern you were when you dragged me to Golden Carp Tower. You condemned me, demanding that I explain why I'd massacred the entire clan over a little grudge. Is it because that finger wasn't yours and none of you could understand the pain? You didn't know what it's like to hear the screams of such excruciating agony from your own mouth. Why did I kill his entire family? Why don't you ask me why he played me, toyed with me for no reason? The Zhu Yang of today has Chengqian to thank for his existence. The Cheng clan of Yu Yang is simply reaping what they sowed. Zhao Jingqian was in utter disbelief. When Chengxian broke your finger, if you wanted revenge, why not break one of his fingers? If you genuinely could not let go of this grudge, then break 2 of his fingers, 10 fingers. Even an entire arm would have been fine. Why did you have to kill his entire family? Did a single finger of yours need to be compensated over by 50 lives? Zhu Yang actually considered this seriously. Of course, he replied, as if it was an odd question. The finger was mine, but those lives belonged to others. No number of lives would have been enough. It was only 50 or so people. How could it be enough to pay for my finger? Zhao Jingqian's face was growing increasingly pale. Furious at Zhu Yang's matter-of-fact tone, he shouted, Then what about the bystanders? Why did you massacre Bieju Temple? Why did you have to blind Song Zichen Diaozhen? Zhu Yang argued back. And why did you stop me? Why did you keep butting in on my business? Why did you stand up and help those Cheng nobodies? Were you helping Chengxian? Or was it Chengping? Remember how Chengping cried tears of gratitude at first, and then how he begged you to stop helping him later? Zhao Jingqian Daozhang, you were in the wrong from the very start. You shouldn't have gotten involved with other people's quarrels. Who was right? Who was wrong? Was there more gratitude or more grievance? Is that something an outsider can determine? Besides, you shouldn't have descended the mountain in the first place. Your master, Biaoshen Sanren, was real smart, wasn't she? Why didn't you listen to her and stay on your mountain to cultivate your path? If you don't get how this world works, then don't enter it. Unable to endure this any longer, Zhao Jingqian gritted out a response with effort. Zhu Yang, you really are repulsive. At those words, a murderous glint that had been absent from Zhu Yang's eyes for so long flashed anew. He chuckled darkly. Zhao Jingqian, this is why I hate you. What I hate the most is self-righteous people like you. So morally superior, thinking that you can just do a few good deeds and the world will suddenly transform into a better place. You utter fool. You naive, idiotic dumbass. You're repulsed by me? Please, fine then. Do you think I'm afraid of repulsing people? But do you even have the right to be repulsed by me? Zhao Jingtian was taken aback. What do you mean? Both Ah Ching and Wei Wuxian's heart were ready to jump out of their chests. Zhu Yang said sweetly, We haven't gone out to kill walking corpses recently, have we? But a couple of years ago, didn't we kill a whole group of them pretty regularly? Zhao Jingtian's lips moved uneasily. Why are you bringing that up now? No reason, Zhu Yang said. It's just too bad that you're blind. Since you plucked out those eyeballs of yours, you couldn't see that those walking corpses were back then. Oh, how scared, how in pain they were when you stabbed them with your sword. There were even those who knelt and wept, kowtowing and begging for you to spare their families. If I hadn't cut out their tongues beforehand, they would have been wailing, crying, Dao Zheng, have mercy. Zhao Jingqian's whole body began to shake. It was a good moment before he said arduously, You're lying to me. You want to deceive me. Yeah, I'm lying to you. I've always been lying to you, he said. But who would have thought? You bought every single lie. But now that I'm telling you the truth, it's a no-sell? Zhao Jingqian took a staggering lunge at him, yelling, Shut up! Shut up! Covering his belly with his right hand, Zhu Yang snapped his fingers of his left as he backed away leisurely. The expression on his face could not be called human anymore. There was a mad glint in his eye, and when he smiled and bared those tiny canine teeth, it made him look like a devil manifested in flesh. "Sure, I'll shut up," he shouted. "If you don't believe me, then trade a few moves with the one behind you and have him tell you whether or not I'm lying to you." A gust from a swung sword whipped close to Zhao Jingchen, who reflectively blocked with Xiang Hua. But when the two swords clashed, he was stupefied. Not just stupefied, he seemed to have hardened into a haggard statue. Carefully, so very carefully, Zhao Jingchen ventured aloud. "Is that you, Zichen?" There was no answer. Song Lan's corpse stood there behind him. He appeared to be staring at Zhao Jingchen, and yet his eyes had no pupils. The longsword in his hand was the one that had clashed with Xiang Hua. The two had studied swordplay side by side in the past. They had crossed blades many a time for such purposes and could recognize each other by the feel of the strike alone. Yet Zhao Jingchen still seemed unsure. Shuddering, he slowly turned around and reached out to feel the blade of Song Lan's sword. Song Lan didn't move. Zhao Jingchen moved his hands upward along the blade until finally, bit by bit, he traced out the two characters carved into the hilt. Fu Shua. His face was growing paler by the moment. He felt the blade of Fu Shua, so overwhelmed he didn't seem to realize when it cut his palm. He was shaking so hard even his words seemed to be scattered all over the ground. "Zichen! Song Daozhang! Song Daozhang, is that you?" Song Lan watched him quietly, without a single word. The bandage around Zhao Jingchen's eyes, soaked by the incessant stream of blood, was marked by two horribly red, sunken holes. He wanted to reach out and touch the sword-wielding man himself, but didn't dare to. He extended his hand and then withdrew it. Waves of excruciating pain roiled in Ah Qing's chest, so intense that both she and Wei Wuxian had trouble breathing. Their tears flowed like a spring. Zhao Jingchen stood there, confused and helpless. "What is the matter? Say something." He was utterly crushed. "Somebody say something!" As he wished, Zhu Yang spoke. "Do I need to bother telling you who the walking corpse you killed yesterday was?" Clang. Xiang Hua dropped to the ground. Zhu Yang burst into uproarious laughter. Zhao Jingchen knelt woodenly before the standing Song Lan. He burst into wailing tears of agony and clutched his head. Zhu Yang was laughing so hard that his eyes were watering. "What's wrong?" he bit out fiercely. "Has this reunion of two good friends moved you to tears? Are you gonna give him a big hug, huh?" Ah Qing covered her mouth firmly, not allowing a single sob to slip free. Inside the charitable mortuary, Zhu Yang paced back and forth, spitting insults in a frightening tone filled with both crazed fury and wild joy. "Save the world! What a joke! You can't even save yourself!" A fresh wave of acute pain filled Wei Wuxian's mind. However, this pain didn't come from Ah Qing's soul. Zhao Jingchen knelt there on the ground, unkempt, prostrated at Song Lan's feet. He curled into a ball, seeming very, very small and fragile, as if he wished desperately to disappear from this world. The Taoist robe that was once flawlessly clean and white was now stained with blood and grime. "You've accomplished nothing," Zhu Yang screamed at him. "Failed utterly. You only have yourself to blame. You reap what you sow." In that moment, Wei Wuxian saw himself in Zhao Jingchen. The him who suffered a crushing defeat while drenched in blood. The him who accomplished nothing, was criticized by all, furiously rebuked by all, and left powerless to fix his desperate circumstances. The him who could do nothing but wail. The white bandage was thoroughly dyed red. Zhao Jingchen's face was covered in blood. Without eyes, the only tears he could shed were crimson. He'd been deceived for years, taking a foe for a good friend, had his kindness crushed underfoot. When he thought he was exercising evil, his hands were instead stained with the blood of innocence, and with those same 2 hands he had killed his own dear friend. He moaned in agony, "Please have mercy." "Weren't you the one about to stab me dead with your sword? And now you're suddenly turning around and begging for mercy?" Zhu Yang taunted. He clearly knew that, with the protection of Song Lan's fierce corpse, it was impossible for Zhao Jingchen to take up the sword once more. He had won again, a complete victory. Suddenly, Zhao Jingchen snatched up Shuanghua, which had been laying on the ground. He turned the sword and placed the blade against his own neck. A clear and clean silver gleam slashed across Zhu Yang's deep and dayless black eyes. Zhao Jingchen's grip loosened, and a deep crimson blood rolled down Shuanghua's blade. At the crisp clatter of the longsword hitting the ground, Zhu Yang's laughter and movement came to an abrupt halt. He was silent for a moment. Then he approached Zhang Jingchen's unmoving dead body. He looked down. The twisted curve of his lips slowly drooped, the blood crawling in his eyes. Maybe Wei Wuxian was mistaken, but the rims of his eyes seemed to have reddened. He then furiously gritted his teeth. "You're the one who forced my hand." Then he sneered and muttered to himself, "It's better that you're dead. More obedient when you're dead." Zhu Yang felt for Zhao Jingchen's breath and pinched at his wrist for a pulse. As if he thought Zhao Jingchen wasn't dead enough, the body not stiff enough, he stood up, went into the overnight chamber, and came out carrying a basin of water. Using a clean cloth, he washed Zhao Jingchen's face clean of blood and even attentively wrapped a brand new bandage around his eyes. He drew an array on the ground, set up the necessary materials, then carried Zhao Jingchen's body in and arranged it properly. Only after doing all of that did he remember to dress his own stomach wound. Probably convinced the 2 of them would meet again shortly, his mood became jollier by the minute. He picked up all the vegetables and fruits that had been strewn across the ground and neatly placed them back into the basket. He cleaned the house in a sudden bout of diligence and even laid down a new layer of thick straw in the coffin where Ah Cheng usually slept. Once he'd finished, he'd took out the candy that Zhao Jingchen had given him the night before from his sleeve. Just when he was about to pop it into his mouth, however, he stopped himself and thought for a moment. Zhu Yang put the candy away. He sat by the table, a hand propping up his cheek, and waited in sullen boredom for Zhao Jingchen to sit up. But Zhao Jingchen never did. The sky grew increasingly dark, as did Zhu Yang's dimming expression. His fingers tapped impatiently on the table. When dusk had fallen completely, he kicked the table, cursed, and swept down the hem of his robes as he stood up. He half knelt by Zhao Jingchen's corpse to inspect the array and the symbols that he had drawn. He checked them repeatedly, but there didn't appear to be anything wrong. His brows furrowed as he pondered, but in the end he still wiped it all away and redrew it. This time, Zhu Yang sat directly on the ground and stared at Zhao Jingchen with great patience. Another period of waiting followed. Ah Cheng's feet were already fallen asleep 3 times and were painful and itchy, like millions of ants were nibbling on them. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and her sight was a little bit blurry. They waited for another 2 hours before Zhu Yang finally realized things had gotten out of control. He placed his hand over Zhao Jingchen's forehead, then closed his eyes to search. A moment later, his eyes snapped open. Wei Wuxian knew that he'd likely found just a few feeble fragments that remained of a broken soul. And a soul this broken could not be used to forge a fierce corpse. It seemed Zhu Yang had never foreseen such an incident. For the very first time, that forever smiling face was blank. Without thinking, he used his hands to cover the gash on Zhao Jingchen's neck. However, the blood had already run dry. Zhao Jingchen's face was as white as a sheet, and large splotches of darkened blood had dried along his nape. It was completely pointless to compress the wound now. Zhao Jingchen was already dead, thoroughly and utterly. Even his soul was shattered. The disparity between the Zhao Yang of the present and the Zhao Yang in his story, who bawled when he didn't get to eat dessert, made it very hard to connect the two. But in this moment, Wei Wuxian finally saw the shadow of that confused child. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Yang's eyes were bloodshot, and he abruptly rose to his feet, his hands clenched tight into fists. He thrashed around inside the charitable mortuary, breaking and throwing things, creating a huge racket as he wrecked the house that he had just tidied up himself earlier. His expressions and the sound he made were more maniacal than all his previous abominable behavior combined. After smashing up the house, he calmed down once more and crouched back in the same spot. He called out in a whisper, "Zhao Jingchen, if you don't get up, I'm going to make your good friend Song Lan go kill people. I'm going to kill every person in Yi City and make them all living corpses. You've lived here for so long. Is it really okay of you to not care? I'll strangle that little blindy Ah Ching to death, and I'll leave her body outside to have wild dogs tear her corpse to shreds." Ah Ching shuddered violently without a sound. No one answered. Zhu Yang suddenly shouted, enraged, "Zhao Jingchen!" He grabbed the collar of Zhao Jingchen's Taoist robes and shook, glaring at the dead man's face. Suddenly, he pulled at his arms and hauled him up. Carrying the corpse on his back, Zhu Yang walked out the door, mumbling under his breath like an insane man. "A spirit-trapping pouch. A spirit-trapping pouch. That's right. A spirit-trapping pouch. I need a spirit-trapping pouch. A spirit-trapping pouch. A spirit-trapping..." He'd been gone quite a while before Ah Ching dared move. She couldn't stand upright and wound up rolling onto the ground, where she squirmed for a while before crawling back to her feet. She took a few arduous steps, shaking out her bones and muscles, then walked faster and faster, until she finally broke into a run. She ran for a long time, leaving Yi City far, far behind her, before she dared release the wail stifled in her chest. "Diao Zhang! Diao Zhang!" she sobbed. "Diao Zhang!" The scene changed. Suddenly, they were in a different place. By now, Ah Ching seemed to have been on the run for a while. She walked in a strange city, pretending to be blind with her bamboo pole in her hand, and she asked whoever she encountered, "Excuse me, are there any major clans in this area? Excuse me, are there any really strong masters in this area? Cultivating masters, I mean." "She's searching for someone who can avenge Zhao Jingchen," Wei Wuxian observed. Unfortunately, no one took her inquiries seriously. Most simply walked off after a few placating words. However, Ah Ching wasn't discouraged. She tirelessly asked one person after the other, and continued to go waving off and chasing after. Seeing her search was bearing no fruit here, she left and walked down a small path. She'd been walking and asking around for the entire day, leaving her exhausted beyond measure. Dragging her heavy feet, she came to a small stream. She cupped her hands and drank a few swallows of stream water, moisturizing her throat, which was so raw it burned. The reflection of the wooden hairpin in her hair caught her attention, and she reached up to remove it. The wooden pin was originally crudely made, like an uneven chopstick full of bumps and holes. Zhao Jingchen had helped her smooth it out and even carve a little fox at the end of it. The little fox had a very pointed face and a pair of large eyes, and it was smiling. When Ah Ching first received the hairpin, she felt it and exclaimed in delight, "Ah, it looks like me!" Staring at this pin, Ah Ching pursed her lips, wanting to cry. Her stomach grumbled, and she fished out a small, white money pouch from her robes, the same one that she had swiped from Zhao Jingchen so long ago now. She dug a tiny piece of candy from the money pouch and carefully licked it. When the tip of her tongue sensed sweetness, she tucked the candy back into the pouch. That was the last candy Zhao Jingchen had left her. Ah Ching had her head down as she put away the money pouch. With a passing glance, she suddenly noticed another shadow behind her reflection in the water. In the reflection, Zhu Yang was looking at her, smiling. Ah-Ching let out a shriek of fright and scrambled along the ground as she dodged away. Somehow, Zhu Yang was already standing behind her. With Shenghua in his hand, he opened his arms and gestured for a hug and happily said, "Ah-Ching, where are you running off for? We haven't even seen each other for ages. Don't you miss me?" Ah-Ching screamed, "Help!" However, this wild, mountainous little path was very remote. There was no one around to save her. Zhu Yang arched his brows. "I was on my way back from finishing up some business in Yuyang when, amazingly, I ran into you in the city while you were asking this and that. What unstoppable destiny, don't you think? Speaking of which, what an excellent faker you are. I can't believe I was deceived for so long. Amazing." Ah-Ching knew she couldn't escape. This was certain death. After the initial surge of terror, a feeling of calm washed over her. Having determined she was going to die anyways, she may as well curse him with her heart's content. All her shrewish energy surged forth again, and she hopped up and spat. "You animal! Traitor! Bitch worse than a dog! Your ma and pa must have screwed in a pig's pen to have conceived a mutt like you! Shit-eating, rotten dick!" Having roamed the streets for so many years, she had heard plenty of obscene abuse. Now she spewed nothing but profanity at Zhu Yang, who listened with a wide grin. "You're so good at this. How come I never heard you be so feral in front of Zhao Jingchen? Got any more?" "Screw you, you shameless bastard!" Ah-Ching cussed further. "You dare mention Zhao Zhang? That's Zhao Zhang's sword. You think you're worthy of it? You're dirtying his things." Zhu Yang raised Shenghua in his left hand. "Oh, you mean this? It's mine now. How pure do you think your Dao Zhang was? Well, it's mine from now on, in any case." "Yours my ass," Ah-Ching snapped. "Dream on, why don't you? Where do you get the right to say whether Dao Zhang was pure or not? You're nothing but snot. Jiao Zhang must have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck to have the misfortune of being tainted by you. The only dirty one is you. You repulsive snot." Zhu Yang's face finally dimmed. Ah-Ching had been on the edge for so long, always on the run. Now that this dreaded moment had finally arrived, her heart was strangely light. Zhu Yang sneered darkly. "Since you enjoy pretending to be blind so much, why don't I help you make it a reality?" He swept his hand up, and a strange powder assaulted Ah-Ching's face, blasting into her eyes. Her vision was nothing but blood red all of a sudden, before everything turned black. Stabbing pain overwhelmed her eyeballs, and Ah-Ching gave a blood-curdling scream. Zhu Yang's voice came again. "Such a long tongue in that big mouth of yours. I don't think you'll be needing that either." A sharp and bone-bitingly cold object burrowed into Ah-Ching's mouth. Just as Wei Wuxian felt the pain at the end of his tongue, he was forcibly pulled back. The crisp jingle of the silver bell was only inches away. Wei Wuxian was still submerged in Ah-Ching's emotions, unable to snap out of it for the longest time. His surroundings seemed to spin around him. Lan Jingyi waved in front of him. "No reaction? He didn't go stupid, did he?" Jin Ling retorted, "I told you all empathy was super dangerous." "Wasn't it you who didn't ring the bell in time? What was going on in your head?" Lan Jingyi retorted. Jin Ling's face froze. Thankfully, Wei Wuxian finally got a hold of himself. He stood, supporting himself on the coffin as he did. Ah-Ching had already broken away from his body and was also leaning over the side of the coffin. The boys scurried around him like a litter of piglets, squishing together and talking all at once. "He's up! Oh, thank goodness, he didn't go stupid! Wasn't he already stupid? Don't talk nonsense!" The chirping by his ear was incessant. Wei Wuxian waved them off. "Quiet, I'm so dizzy." They quickly quieted. Wei Wuxian looked down and reached into the coffin, peeling aside the clean and tidy collar of Zhao Jingchen's Taoist robe. Just as he had suspected, at his throat there was a thin yet fatal wound. Wei Wuxian sighed. He turned to Ah Ching. You've worked hard. The reason Ah Ching was a blind ghost, but didn't move slowly or carefully like someone who had been blind in life, was because she'd only been truly blinded right before her death. Before that, she'd always been agile and energetic, a young girl who moved like the wind. In years since, she had hidden alone in Yi City, which was choked with evil miasma, skulking around and setting herself against Zhu Yang. She scared away the living who entered the city, giving them warnings and herding them out. How great her courage and dedication must be. Ah Ching was leaning over the side of the coffin. She put her hands together in a praying motion, as if begging for something. Then, taking her bamboo pole for a sword, she swung it in a kill, kill, kill motion, just like she used to when playing around. Don't worry, Wei Wuxian assured her. He turned to the clan juniors. You guys stay here. The walking corpses in the city won't enter this charitable mortuary. I'll be right back. Lan Jinyi couldn't help but ask, what exactly did you see during empathy? The story's too long. I'll give the full report in the future, Wei Wuxian said. You can't shorten it? Don't keep us in suspense, Jinling yelled. I could, and Wei Wuxian did exactly that in his next words. Zhu Yang must die. Amidst the confounding evil miasma that filled the air, the ka-ka of Ah Ching's bamboo pole led the way. One man and one ghost moved swiftly, speedily arriving where the fight still raged. Lan Wangji and Zhu Yang's battle had already moved outside. Bichen and Jiang Zei's sword glares clashed with each other. He'd clearly arrived at the battle's critical moment. Bichen, calm and collected, had steadily gained the upper hand. Jiang Zei, wild as a mad dog, was barely keeping up. However, the dreadful white fog kept Lan Wangji from seeing clearly, while Zhu Yang had lived in Yi City for many years. Like Ah Ching, he knew the roads like the back of his hand. This was the cause of their stalemate. Every so often, the Guchen's angry cries cut through the clouds to expel the hordes of walking corpses that relentlessly circled them. Wei Wuxian had only just pulled out his flute when two streaks of black crashed heavily in front of him like iron pagodas. Wen Ning had Song Lan pinned to the ground. The two fierce corpses were strangling each other, their knuckles cracking. Hold him down, Wei Wuxian commanded. He stooped and swiftly found the ends of the skull-piercing nails in Song Lan's head. He relaxed. These nails are much thinner than the ones in Wen Ning, and the material's different too. It shouldn't be hard for Song Lan to return to himself. He immediately pinched the pointed ends and pulled slowly. Feeling the strange objects in his brain twist, Song Lan's eyes snapped open, and he hissed and snarled low. Wen Ning had to increase the strength of his grip to prevent him from struggling free. When the skull-piercing nails were pulled out, Song Lan instantly slumped to the ground, like a puppet whose strings were cut, and stopped moving. Just then there was a rage-maddened roar from the scene of combat. Give it back! Lan Wangji's sword had slashed across Zhu Yang's chest. Bichan's tip didn't only spill blood, but it had plucked free the spirit-trapping pouch hidden in his robes. Wei Wuxian, unable to clearly see what had happened, yelled in response, Zhu Yang, what do you want him to give back? Xianghua? It's not like Xianghua is your sword, so where do you get off saying give it back? Are you that shameless? Zhu Yang burst out laughing. Well, Wei Jianbei, aren't you insensitive? Go ahead and laugh. You can laugh yourself to death, and you still won't be able to piece Zhao Jingchen's soul back together. He finds you repulsive, and yet you still want to try and drag him back to play with you. Zhu Yang went from laughing uproariously one second to yelling hatefully the next. Who wants to play games with him? Then why did you kneel so pitifully before me, begging me to restore his soul? Zhu Yang was very astute. He had to be able to see that Wei Wuxian was trying to disrupt him on purpose, first by angering him to distraction, and then by making him yell so Lan Wangji could determine his position and attack. And yet, he couldn't help himself from answering again and again. Why? Like you don't know? He spat furiously.
I'm going to turn him into a fierce corpse, an evil spirit for me to command. He wants to be some kind of moral, virtuous cultivator, doesn't he? And I'll make him kill non-stop without a day of peace." "Huh?" Wei Wuxian commented. "You hate him that much? Then why did you go and kill Chang Ping?" Zhu Yang laughed derisively. "Why did I kill Chang Ping? Do you even need to ask, Yiling Patriarch? Didn't I tell you? If I said I was going to kill the entire Zhang clan of Yuyang, then I wouldn't even spare the dog." Every time he ran his mouth, he announced his own location. The sound of a blade piercing flesh echoed through the air again and again. Zhu Yang must have been near impervious to pain. Wei Wuxian had already witnessed this during his session of empathy. The youth could be stabbed through the belly and still joke around like nothing had happened. "That certainly is a nice excuse, but the timing doesn't line up," Wei Wuxian continued to needle him. "Someone like you, who would take 1,000 eyes in exchange for one single lost eye, who works with such viciousness and efficiency, why put it off so many years if you genuinely meant to kill the entire family? You know full well for whom's sake you really went to kill Changping for." "Why don't you tell me then?" Zhu Yang spat. "What do I know full well, huh? What do I know?" The last part was screamed aloud. "If you just wanted to kill him, why did you use Linqi?" Wei Wuxian pressed him. "It's a form of torture meant to punish sinners. If you were avenging yourself, why did you use Jianghua rather than Jiangzai? Why did you have to pluck out Sheng Ping's eyes, just like Zhao Jingchen?" Zhu Yang screamed his response with all he was worth. "Bullshit! That's all bullshit. What, should I have let him die an easy death when I wanted revenge?" "Well, I agree that it was vengeance," Wei Wuxian assured him, "but who exactly were you avenging?" "What a joke. If you really wanted vengeance, the one to suffer the 1,000 cuts of Linqi should have been your own damn self." Two sharp whizzing sounds snapped through the air, shooting towards him. Wei Wuxian didn't move an inch, but Wen Ning darted in front of him and intercepted the two gleaming, vicious, black skull-piercing nails. Zhu Yang let out a hooting laugh like a mad owl and then stopped abruptly. He fell silent, no longer responding, and continued to fight Lan Wangji in the dense fog. "This little thug's life force is so strong. It's like he can't feel pain at all, no matter where you hurt him," Wei Wuxian thought. "If he'd just keep yapping, Lanzan could stab him some more. I refuse to believe that he could still jump around with his limbs cut off. Too bad he's not taking the bait anymore." Just then, a series of clear, crisp taps, "Ka-ka!" came from within the fog. It quickly clicked in his head. Wei Wuxian ordered, "Lanzan, stab where the bamboo pole is tapping." Lan Wangji immediately attacked. Zhu Yang grunted. A moment later, the bamboo pole sounded again from a different place, dozens of meters away. Lan Wangji continued to strike wherever the sound directed him. Zhu Yang threatened in a dark tone, "Little blindy, trailing so close behind me. Aren't you scared that I'll crush you between my fingers?" Ah Qing had been constantly on the move in Yi City ever since she was murdered by Zhu Yang, hiding so he couldn't find her. For some reason, Zhu Yang seemed to ignore her wandering ghost, perhaps thinking her too insignificant to be of a concern. But Ah Qing was now following him like a shadow within the thick fog, beating her bamboo pole against the ground to expose his position and guide Lan Wangji's attacks. Zhu Yang was extremely fast, able to disappear from one place and reappear almost instantly in another. However, Ah Qing was quick as well, even quicker as a ghost than she had been when alive. She stalked him like a curse, hot on his heels, wildly beating the ground nonstop with the bamboo pole in her hand. The sound of the ka-ka, da-da, was suddenly far, suddenly close, suddenly left, suddenly right, suddenly in front, suddenly behind. Zhu Yang couldn't shake her off, and as soon as the sound rang out, the glare of Bichen was sure to follow. Zhu Yang had been like a fish in water in this fog at first, able to hide and lay ambush. But now he had to split his focus to deal with Ah Qing as well. He cursed under his breath and whipped a talisman behind him. But in that split second of distraction, guided now by the sound of Ah Qing's terrible scream, Bichen pierced through his chest.
Ah Ching's ghost had been shattered by Zhu Yang's talisman. She was no longer able to expose his location with the tapping of her bamboo pole, but Bichen had finally delivered the fatal blow. Zhu Yang was no longer able to move as stealthily as before, no longer so difficult to catch. From within the fog there came a thick, bloodied coughing noise. Wei Wuxian threw out an empty spirit-trapping pouch to salvage Ah Ching's damaged soul. Dragging his feet with great effort, Zhu Yang took a few steps before he suddenly lunged forward, screaming with hands extended, "Give it to me!" Bichen's blue light flashed. Lan Wangji had cleanly chopped off one of Zhu Yang's arms. Blood gushed forth. Ahead of Wei Wuxian, a large area of the hazy white mist had suddenly been dyed crimson. The stench of blood was overwhelming, a humid, rusty smell that dominated the senses, but Wei Wuxian had no time to care. He was busy concentrating on locating and squirreling away the pieces of Ah Ching's shattered soul. Although Zhu Yang still did not moan in pain, there came the sound of knees heavily hitting the ground. Having finally lost too much blood, he collapsed, unable to walk a step further. Lan Wangji readied Bichen once more, and its next attack poised to send Zhu Yang's head rolling. Unexpectedly, a burst of blue flames erupted suddenly from within the white miasma. The spellfire of a transportation talisman. Wei Wuxian knew disaster was imminent. He charged over, having no time to worry about the perils within the fog. In his rush, he nearly slipped. Where the stench of blood was thickest, there were rivers of it all over the ground, all spewed from Zhu Yang's severed arm. But Zhu Yang himself had vanished. Lan Wangji walked over, and Wei Wuxian asked, "The gravedigger?" Zhu Yang had suffered a fatal blow from Bichen and lost an arm. Judging by the amount of blood, he was undoubtedly dead. He couldn't possibly have had enough energy or spiritual power left to use a transportation talisman. Lan Wangji inclined his head. "I struck 3 times at the gravedigger. His capture was imminent. A sudden assault of 3 large crowds of walking corpses aided him in his escape." Wei Wuxian's brows furrowed as he thought aloud. So, he was already hurt, but didn't hesitate to spend an immense amount of spiritual power just to get Zhu Yang's corpse with him. Which means he probably knew Zhu Yang and his history. Taking the body, he was hoping he had the Yin Tiger Tally on him. Rumor had it that the Yin Tiger Tally was lost after Zhu Yang had taken care of Jin Guanyao, but judging by the looks of things, the Tiger Tally was likely on his person. Yi City had become a hive filled with millions of walking corpses, living corpses, and even fierce corpses. Corpse toxin and skull-piercing nails would hardly help control so many of them. Only the presence of the Yin Tiger Tally explained how Zhu Yang could command such absolute obedience from the corpses, ordering them to advance and attack in wave after wave. Someone as paranoid and cunning as Zhu Yang would never have let the Yin Tiger Tally out of his sight. He would only ever keep it on him, where being able to feel it on every step would give him a sense of security. By taking his corpse, the gravedigger had a good chance at taking the Yin Tiger Tally itself. This was no trivial matter. Wei Wuxian said gravely, "With things as they are, we can only hope that there's a limit to what the restored Yin Tiger Tally can do." Right then, Lan Wangji lightly tossed something at him. Wei Wuxian caught it easily. "What is it?" "The right arm," Lan Wangji replied. What he had tossed over was a brand new evil-sealing Cancun pouch. Only then did Wei Wuxian remember their original objective in coming to Yi City, and he brightened. "Our good buddy's right arm?" Lan Wangji replied. That Lan Wangji actually had time to successfully find the right ghost arm while surmounting innumerable hurdles, the gravedigger, the walking corpses, the evil miasma. Really, Wei Wuxian had to hand it to the guy. As expected of Han Wenjun, he praised vigorously. "We're ahead in the game again. It's too bad it's not the head. I really want to get a look at this good buddy's face, you know? But we'll get there soon enough. Where's Song Lan?" Once Zhu Yang's body disappeared, the white fog swirled faster and began to thin out. Visibility was improving.
which was precisely how Wei Wuxian had suddenly realized that Song Lan had disappeared. Only Wen Ning now crouched in the spot where he had lain, gazing at Wei Wuxian's direction as if in a stupor. Lan Wangji placed his hand on the hilt of Bichen, which had only just been sheathed. Wei Wuxian assured him, "It's fine, no need to be alarmed. Song Lan was a fierce corpse from before. He should have no intent to attack anymore, or Wen Ning would have given warning. It's likely his mind has returned to him, and he's left on his own." Wei Wuxian blew a soft whistle. Wen Ning stood up at the sound and retreated, head bowed, his figure disappearing into the white mist. As the sound of dragging chains gradually faded, Lan Wangji made no comment aside from a calm, "Let us go." Just as they were about to go, Wei Wuxian suddenly said, "Hold on." In the pool of blood, he spotted a lonesome object. It was Zhao Yung's severed left arm. The hand was missing a pinky, and the 4 remaining fingers were tightly balled into a fist. They were clenched hard. Wei Wuxian crouched down and had to pull with all his strength before each finger peeled back. In the now opened hand, he found a tiny piece of candy sitting in the palm. The candy was slightly blackened, certainly no longer edible. It was a little crushed from the force of the grip. Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji returned to the charitable mortuary together. The doors were wide open. Sure enough, Song Lan stood before the coffin where Zhao Jingchen lay. His head hung low as he gazed upon it. The clan juniors, their swords brandished, were all squished together and bunched on one side, staring in alarm at this fierce corpse who had been attacking them earlier. At the sight of Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji's return, they looked as if their lives had been spared, but still didn't dare to yell, terrified that they might rouse Song Lan from his stupor and provoke his ire. Wei Wuxian crossed the threshold and gave Lan Wangji an introduction. "Song Lan? Song Zichen Daozhang?" Still standing vigil beside the coffin, Song Lan looked up and turned his gaze their way. Lan Wangji lifted his robes lightly to elegantly step over the high threshold and inclined his head in greeting. Song Lan's mind had returned, and his pupils had rolled back into place. The eyes that gazed at them were now clear and black. And those eyes, once Zhao Jingchen's own, were full of indescribable sorrow. There was no need for further questioning. Wei Wuxian had his answers. Song Lan had seen everything during the period he was under Zhu Yung's control as a fierce corpse, and he remembered it all. To ask more questions, to even say anything else, would do nothing but add to his helplessness and pain. After a moment of silence, Wei Wuxian took out 2 small, identical spirit-trapping pouches and passed them over. Zhao Jingchen Zhaozong and Miss Ah Qing, respectively. Although Ah Qing was terrified of Zhu Yang, she still trailed after the murderer who had killed her with his own 2 hands. She was the one who kept him from hiding and guided Bichen's blade to make sure that he finally reaped what he had sown. The assault of Zhu Sheng's vicious talisman had almost dissipated her soul. Wei Wuxian had put the utmost effort into salvaging what pieces he could, but it was fragmented and scattered now, much like Zhao Jingchen's. The 2 feeble souls were curled up in the twin spirit-trapping pouches, so fragile that it almost seemed like the lightest bump might have made them disperse into their bags. Song Lan's hands shook slightly as he received them. He cradled them in his palms, not even daring to dangle them by the drawstrings for fear of swaying would damage them. "Song Daozhang, what do you plan to do with Zhao Jingchen Daozhang's body?" Wei Wuxian asked. One hand carefully holding the 2 spirit-trapping pouches, Song Lan pulled out Fujiu with his other and wrote on the ground, "Cremate the body, nurture the soul." Given how fragmented Zhao Jingchen's soul was, it would definitely never return to its body. Cremation was not a bad idea. After the body turned to ash, and only the pure soul was left behind, perhaps one day, with patience and care, it could return to the world. Wei Wuxian nodded. "What are your plans for the future?" Song Lan wrote, "Carry Shuanghua, walk the world path."
exorcise evil together with Xinchen. He paused briefly, then wrote, "Once he wakes, tell him, I am sorry, and it is not your fault." The words he was unable to say to Zhao Jingchen while he was alive. The evil miasma of Yi City gradually dispersed. They could already see the long streets and intersections. Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian led the group of clan juniors out of the barren ghost town. Song Lan bade them farewell at the city gates. He was still dressed in the same ink-black Taoist robe. Alone, he carried 2 swords, Shenghua and Fushu, and 2 souls, Xiao Jingchen and Ah Qing. And thus, he walked a different path. It was not the path they'd taken to get to Yi City. Lan Sijui lost himself in her a moment gazing at that retreating form, then said, "Zhao Jingchen, bright moon, cold breeze, ever distant. Song Zichen, dauntlessly scorns the snow and frost. I wonder if reunion will ever come for them." As Wei Wuxian trekked down the road, so overgrown with weeds he noticed a field. This was where Zhao Jingchen and Ah Qing saved Zhu Yang back then, he thought. Lan Jinyi spoke up. "Now can you tell us exactly what you saw during empathy? How did the guy turn out to be Zhu Yang? Why is he impersonating Zhao Jingchen? And was that really the Ghost General? Where did the Ghost General go? Why isn't he around anymore? Is he still in Yi City? Why did he suddenly appear in the first place?" Pretending not to hear the second set of questions, Wei Wuxian replied, "Well, it's a complicated story." Once he was done telling the tale as they walked down the path, there was nothing but gloomy clouds of melancholy all around him. No one remembered the Ghost General anymore. Lan Jinyi was the first to start crying. "How could something like this happen in this world?" Jinling flew into a rage. "That Zhu Yang! Scumbag! That death was too kind for him. If Fairy was here, I'd send him forth to bite him to death." Wei Wuxian was horrified. If Fairy were there, he would likely have died of fright himself before it could get around to chomping Zhu Yang to death. The boy who had complimented Ah Qing's beauty while they were spying through the door beat his chest with grief and regret. "Oh, Miss Ah Qing! Miss Ah Qing!" Lan Jingyi cried the loudest, utterly losing control of himself. But there was no one to remind him of the rules regarding the clamor, since Lan Zijui's eyes were also red as well. Thankfully, Lan Wangji didn't silence them. "Let's go burn some joss paper for Zhao Jingchen Zhaozhen and Miss Ah Qing, huh?" Lan Jinyi suggested, all snot and tears. "Isn't there a village at the intersection ahead? Let's go buy some stuff and pay respects to them." The group all agreed. Okay. They'd reached that village by the stone tablet as they spoke. Lan Jinyi and Lan Sijui impatiently ran over and bought a mess of incense sticks, candles, and red and yellow paper money. They walked to the side of the road and used earth and mud blocks to build something resembling a windproof stove. The boys crouched together on the ground around it and began burning paper money, mumbling as they did. Wei Wuxian hadn't made many wisecracks on the way, as he wasn't in the best of moods, but watching them now, he snapped out of it. He turned to Lan Wangji. "Hung Wenjun, look at what the kids are doing. Right on other people's doorsteps. Why didn't you stop them?" Lan Wangji replied blandly, "Why didn't you stop them?" "Fine, I'll help you manage them," Wei Wuxian said. And so he went. "You've got to be kidding me. Each and every one of you is a junior of a cultivation sect. Did your daddies, mommies, shushus, or bobos never teach you that the dead can't receive paper money? What do the dead need money for? They don't get any of it. Besides, burning the paper money here in front of other people's homes..." Lan Jinyi waved dismissively. Go away, you're blocking the wind. The fire won't start with you in the way. Besides, it's not like you've died before. How would you know whether the dead can receive paper money, huh?" The other boy, tears and soot smearing his face, also looked up and agreed. "Yeah, how would you know? What if they can?" Wei Wuxian mumbled, "How would I know?" Of course he knew.
because in the 10-something years he was dead, he didn't receive a single sheet of paper money. Lan Jinyi also added another knife to his heart. Even if you didn't receive it, it's because nobody burned any for you. How could that be? Wei Wuxian asked himself. Could I have been that much of a failure that no one would burn me any paper money? Could it really be that I didn't get squat because nobody burned anything for me? The more he thought about it, the more he thought that it had to be impossible. He turned his head to Lan Wangji and whispered, Hung Wanjun, did you burn any paper money for me? At least you did, right? Lan Wangji cast a glance at him, then lowered his head and brushed off a bit of ash that stained his sleeve. He gazed quietly into the distance, not providing a single comment. Wei Wuxian watched his serene profile and thought, No way! He really didn't? Just then, a villager with a bow strapped to his back walked over, clearly upset. Why the heck are you burning all that here? This is the front of my house. It's unlucky. See? Get yelled at, didn't you? Wei Wuxian tutted. The boys, never having done anything like this, hadn't realized that burning paper money in front of somebody else's door was considered unlucky. They apologized profusely. La Sijue wiped his face. Is this your house, sir? The villager replied, Ha! What are you saying, kid? My family's lived here for 3 generations. If it's not my house, is it yours? Jin Ling grew upset at his tone and made to stand up. What's your tone, mister? Wei Wuxian pushed him back down by the head. Lan Sijue added, I see. I apologize. I didn't mean anything by my question. It's just the last time we passed by this house, it was a different huntsman that we encountered. Hence my question. The villager looked at him blankly. Another huntsman? Who? He held up 3 fingers and said, My family only has 1 son per generation. I'm the only one. No brothers. My dad died a long time ago. I ain't got a wife and sired no children. So what other huntsman is there? But it's true, Lan Jinyi insisted, also standing up. He was all bundled up tight, wore a big hat, and was sitting in your yard repairing his bow and arrows. Like he was getting ready to go hunting. When we arrived, he even gave us directions. He was the one who pointed us to Yi City. That villager, What bull? You sure you saw him sitting in my yard? There ain't nobody like that in my house. That dinky little backwater Yi City. Even the ghosts there will kill ya. Pointing the way for you? I think he wanted to end you. I think what you saw was a ghost. He spat a number of times to counter the bad luck, then turned away, shaking his head. The boys were left looking around at each other in dismay. Lan Jinyi was still arguing. But he really was sitting in this yard. I remember it clearly. Wei Wuxian gave Lan Wangji a brief account and then turned to them. Do you understand now? You guys were lured to Yi City. That huntsman who pointed you here wasn't a local villager at all. It was someone in disguise with ulterior motives. Was someone intentionally leading us here with the cat killings? Was the fake huntsman the one who did it? Jinling asked. Most likely, Wei Wuxian replied. Lan Sijue was puzzled. Why would he go through all the trouble to lead us to Yi City? We don't know yet, at least for the time being, but be very careful from now on, Wei Wuxian advised. If you encounter these kinds of strange happenings, don't investigate on your own. Contact your families first and have them send help and work together. If it wasn't for the fact that Hung Wanjun was also in Yi City, your little lives might have been snuffed out. Cold sweat rolled down the juniors' backs as they thought about how things could have ended if they fell in Yi City. Whether it was a death surrounded by walking corpses or being killed by the real-life devil, Zhu Yang, either scenario was terrifying. Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian kept going for a while, leading the group of clan juniors behind them. Just as the sky was darkening, they made it to the city where they had left the dog and donkey earlier. The lights were bright, and the air was abuzz with human voices. At this sight, everyone in the group felt the same way. This is where the living should be living. Wei Wuxian flung his arms open at the sight of the spotted donkey and exclaimed joyously, Little Apple! Little Apple brayed furiously at him. Then Wei Wuxian heard the barking of a dog and immediately burrowed behind Lan Wangji. Fairy had come charging over as well, and the dog and donkey faced each other, baring their teeth.
"Tie them up properly," Lan Wangji said. "It's mealtime."
Dragging along Wei Wuxian, who remained practically glued to his back, Lan Wangji ascended to the second floor as he followed the waiter. Jinling and company were going to follow, but Lan Wangji glanced back and gave them all an indiscernible, sweeping look. Lan Sijue immediately said to the others, "Seniors and juniors must be separated. Let's stay down on the first floor." Lan Wangji gave a light nod, and then continued up the stairs with a cool expression. Jinling stood hesitating on the steps, not knowing whether to go up or down. Wei Wuxian turned back, giggling. "Adults and children must be separated. There are some things you guys had best not see." Jinling pursed his lips. "Who wants to see?" Lan Wangji ordered a table for the juniors at the first floor, while he and Wei Wuxian sat face to face in a private booth on the second floor. "Han Wenjun, listen to my one piece of advice," Wei Wuxian started. "Absolutely do not let your family shoulder the entirety of the cleanup of Yi City. A giant city like that will be a massive expense to sort out, and incredibly tricky at that. Shudong was never under the jurisdiction of the Lan clan of Guzu. Take account of the juniors downstairs. See which families they're from and count each of those families in. It's their duty to contribute."
"Worth considering," Lan Wangji agreed.
"Really consider it, yeah?" Wei Wuxian said. "Everyone loves to jump into the fight when there's glory to be had, but fobs off the task when there are responsibilities to shoulder. If you guys hold your tongues and handle everything, you'll just wind up spoiling the other clans, and they might not fully appreciate your kindness or understand the trouble that you've undertaken. If you do this too often, people will start assuming that they can leave everything to you whenever something happens. That's just how the world works." After a brief pause, he added, "Still, this really is rotten luck. Yi City is so remote, and there happens to be no watchtower in the area either. If there were, Jinling and the boys wouldn't have been able to barge in by mistake, and it wouldn't have taken so many years for Miss Ah Ching and Zhao Jingchen soul to be freed." There were as many cultivation clans as there were stars, big and small and scattered across the land. Most resided in prosperous cities that were accessible from all directions or in spiritual lands with lush, auspicious landscapes. No clan wished to set up in remote, impoverished areas. Even skilled rogue cultivators rarely ventured that far in their eccentric travels. Thus, when evil hauntings occurred, the locals in these remote areas often suffered untold misery, with nowhere to go for help. When the former family head of the Jin clan of Lanling, that is, Jin Guanshan, was still around, Jin Guanyao had posed the idea of the watchtowers, but Jin Guanshan showed no enthusiasm for the project, which would have been monstrously expensive. Furthermore, the Jin clan of Lanling didn't have the power to rally enough people behind them at the time. The plan got no attention, and nothing wound up happening. Once Jin Guanyao formally succeeded the seat of the family head and ascended to the position of cultivation chief, he began rallying and allocating both manpower and clan resources, determined to put into action the idea that he had conceived in the past. At first, the voices of dissent were the loudest. Many suspected the Jin clan of Lanling would profit from this opportunity and were only interested in lining their own pockets. But Jin Guanyao, smile in place, persisted relentlessly for a full 5 years. In those 5 years, he formed alliances with countless people and clashed with just as many others. Using both hard and soft tactics, employing every trick up his sleeve, he finally persevered long enough to see his plan come to fruition, building over 1,200 watchtowers. These watchtowers were distributed in remote and impoverished lands, and every tower was allocated a number of sect disciples from various clans. Should there be any abnormal activity, those disciples would take immediate action. Should the problem be beyond their ability to resolve, they would swiftly report to and seek help from other clans or rogue cultivators. If the cultivators who assisted asked for compensation and the locals were unable to bear the financial burden, the Jin clan of Lanling was able to raise enough money every year to support a payment pool. All of this had happened after the Yiling Patriarch's time. It was only after traveling by a number of watchtowers that Wei Wuxian heard about their origins from Lan Wangji. Rumor had it that the Golden Carp Tower was currently raising funds to initiate construction on a second batch of watchtowers, increasing their numbers to 3,000 and covering an even greater area. Since the watchtowers were already visibly effective, the second set would no doubt be well received soon after they were established. That being said, the voice of doubt and mockery had never fully quieted. When the time came, it was sure to be another grand mess. It didn't take long before the food was served, and with that, the liquor. Wei Wuxian glanced over the table, seemingly nonchalant. Most of the dishes were red with spice. He paid attention to what Lan Wangji took, noticing most of the dishes he reached for were plain and bland. He only rarely went for the vibrantly red ones, though his face remained unchanged when he took a bite. An idea came to Wei Wuxian. Lan Wangji noticed him staring and asked, "What is it?" Wei Wuxian languidly poured himself a cup and replied, "I kind of want someone to drink with me." End of chapter 8.